Good evening and a very warm welcome to Unlocking Nature. Unlocking Nature is a space where we discuss important issues in African conservation, and we also do some storytelling. This is facilitated by the Leadership for Conservation in Africa. Tonight we welcome Beth Neale to the Unlocking Nature screen. Beth is a conservationist, filmmaker, storyteller, and freediver. Beth, we look forward to your story.
Hi, everybody. So good to be here. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm excited to be sharing this breathless journey with you. I have prepared a presentation, so I'll be sharing that with you now. And yeah, can dive right in. To storytelling for ocean conservation. Yeah, I'm extremely blessed that my passion is my job. And I'm extremely passionate about sharing that with people and as many people as possible. So, yeah, it's just figuring this out. Yeah, this is my story in becoming a storyteller. And we're going to dive right in. I'm excited to share it with you, and then also for some, questions and conversations afterwards, because that's an important part of storytelling too. Is everyone who's been a part of helping me to tell these stories. So yeah, my story begins when I was a little girl and with a mermaid called Madison from the movie Splash. And yeah, I love this movie so much. It made so much sense to me. I thought that I was a mermaid. And I used to I remember spending hours in the bath, just like the scene in the movie, like hoping my legs would change into a tail. And when I would see my skin starting to wrinkle, then I thought it was finally happening. Unfortunately, I never did, but I did believe I was a mermaid, and I grew up in landlocked Johannesburg. But we were very fortunate to spend holidays down the south coast of Durban, which is actually where I live now, down the south coast. And yeah, I fell in love with the ocean as well. And I think one of the reasons why I didn't just swim off, and hope that my mermaid family would be waiting for me is because I had a huge fear of, of sharks. And it's interesting because these movies and these stories that we watch have such a profound impact on shaping our own narratives and how we live our lives and the stories we tell ourselves as well. And yeah, I was terrified of sharks. I was even scared in swimming pools of sharks. I mean, I don't know how I ever thought the sharks would get to me there, but I remember being scared of sharks in pools. And I think a lot of us, the movie Jaws, has caused, generations of people to be terrified of sharks. And but we went to the coast. I got in the sea because I was told, well, we've got shark nets, so we're completely fine, we're completely safe, and I believed that. Um, and at the time, as most people did, and as a lot of people still believe now, the shark nets to be barriers. So I thought, the nets were completely, like we would be completely protected by the nets, and that nothing could penetrate them. I'm going to get back to that a bit later on, but we know that, that's not true. And the nets work very differently to that. But at the time, I thought I was safe swimming because of the shark nets on the KZN coast. And yeah, so swam happily, but still had a deep fear of sharks. And also growing up, it was my dream to become a dolphin trainer. So yeah, I thought, one day I'm gonna work at SeaWorld and train dolphins. And I was very lucky because my parents are very supportive of my dreams, and they took me to SeaWorld. And I remember that I really, really, really wanted to touch a dolphin. It was my dream to touch a dolphin, and you could do that at SeaWorld. And as I kind of had, you got little cups full of tiny fish, and you could feed the dolphins. And as you'd feed the dolphins, they'd swim past, and you could touch them. And it just, yeah, that dream, I realized there was something very wrong because the dolphins would kind of swim and try and move away from the people. And you could see they weren't enjoying it at all. They were just trying to get the fish, but they didn't like the people touching them. And I also saw the orcas, in the show, and belugas, big, beautiful belugas in tanks. And, it started to just not really make sense to me. And I understood why when I went to Mozambique for the first time when I was 18, and I swam with wild dolphins. And I had that experience of dolphins choosing to swim with me, dolphins choosing to play with me and to talk to me. And that was the dream coming true, being in the wild with them. And I remember I went out with Angie Gallen, who was the first person to do dolphin swimming in Mozambique. And after we swam with the dolphins, we went to a reef, and I just dived down. And she's the first person who said to me, "Wow, that was incredible. You actually got down to the reef. Do you know that you're really good at underwater?" And that really stuck with me because I'd never thought of myself as being a natural underwater. And that really shaped a lot for me, particularly with the dolphins and just being underwater and feeling so completely at home underwater. I didn't know about freediving at that time. I then went to study film because I thought I really wanted to be an underwater filmmaker and underwater camera woman, and studied film at UCT, and my honors film was called Underwater Wonders. And it was about Thomas and Tonsi, who was running the outreach program at the Two Oceans Aquarium. And for my project, I had a competition where 4 kids from township schools were able to go and travel to Arniston, stay in the Arniston Hotel, and help Thomas to teach other kids. And it's just really incredible because this is my first film, and yet it's the foundation of who I am and still what I do today. And I just find that like really incredible, even though I had to leave a few times to be able to come back to this. This is, where my heart is, my soul is. I got to film underwater, and not only that, Charles Maxwell, who was like the king of shark filming at the time and underwater filmmaking, let me use his housing. Which was very brave of him to allow a student to put a camera in his housing and hope that it didn't flood. But yeah, I got into the tanks and filmed underwater, and yeah, it was really incredible, and it was amazing for me to be able to tell the story. Studying film, I also came across the Big Blue and fell in love with freediving. That's when I realized freediving was an actual sport. And it's an incredible movie about Jacques Mayol and Enzo, and the 2 different perspectives of freediving. So one is freediving for the love of being underwater, and the other one is freediving for depths, medals, competitions, and fame. And it really resonated with me, and yeah, I just loved the movie, and still it didn't seem like that could really be possible for me at the time. I was living in London, and not very happy watching The Big Blue, and I actually Googled Freedive London. I just thought I'd try it out, and a group of people came up, and that's when I did my first freediving course in London at a quarry. Well, at first in a pool in a gym, so you can learn freediving on land or in a swimming pool. And then my first freedive was actually in a quarry outside of London. It was freezing cold and zero visibility, but I still completely loved it. I was at the time living in London as well, that I got a job working for Save Our Seas Foundation, and I moved to Norfolk. And I was working for the producer there, and my job was to archive their footage. So I got to spend hours every day, even though I wasn't out there myself filming. I got to spend hours each day just completely immersing myself in this incredible underwater world. And that's where I got to meet creatures like the cuttlefish. And I was just watching this footage from everywhere, and it just made sort of like my drive and passion, you know, even more. And I applied for a job at a wildlife filmmaking company in Durban in South Africa called Earth Touch, and I got the job. And soon I was producing films for some of the big wildlife channels. One of them was Predator Fails. So they were very much, tooth and claws, jaws. Yeah, very exciting, and I loved it, and amazing to be a part of it. But it didn't feel like the sort of, storytelling that I had wanted to be doing. I wanted to film and tell stories to connect people to the underwater world. And I had an amazing time creating these films, but yeah, something was telling me that I wanted to do more heart and soul. I remember I used to pitch films, and they used to tell me, no, it's too feminine. You need you need more of the masculinity. And yeah, so that was, yeah, Earth Touch. I remember one of the lines that was in this film was, "The great white wanted blubber, but instead got rubber," because the great white attacked a decoy seal rather than a real seal. And after that, I had the incredible opportunity to leave wildlife filmmaking and join I Am Water Ocean Conservation as an outreach and education manager. And this felt like a more return to what my heart and soul really wanted to do. And as an outreach and education manager, I was working mostly with kids from underprivileged communities, introducing them to the underwater world for the first time, and teaching them about the ocean and why the ocean is so worth protecting. My first week at work was I got to meet Her Royal Deepness Sylvia Earle with Mission Blue. And yeah, it was just really incredible. They were setting up all the hope spots in South Africa with Mission Blue and Sylvia Earle. It was really, really incredible. And just working with kids as well. I've taught hundreds of children snorkeling and freediving, and just sharing that with them. And I always had my GoPro with me, as you can see. So although I wasn't filmmaking, I was filming everything. I've got incredible footage of children transforming as they explore the underwater world. A natural progression then was to become a freediving instructor with pure apnea. And John Danes, you can see he's busy christening me a freediving instructor with his fin. And that is my first, and I think my only watch shot. So all freedivers do their watch shots. That was to become an instructor, I had to dive to 40 meters. So that's my the only watch shot that I have of my dives. But yeah, I was really proud to become an instructor. I then became a master instructor as well. And yeah, I've taught so many courses and so many people, and helped so many people on their journey. And again, with my courses, I'm known for that. I've got the camera in hand filming everybody's dives, which is so special. Because you get to film people from their first free dive, to finishing the course, and showing them how they're capable of so much more than they think they are, how they can hold their breath for so much more longer than they think that they can. And becoming a freediving instructor was a really powerful way to safely and with the right knowledge and information help people explore the underwater world. I've also worked with adults, hundreds of adults, thousands of adults, and yeah, in swimming pools and kids with kids, and just how quickly people progress is just really astounding. So I came full circle. I you know, I from seeing Madison the mermaid to being able to put on a mermaid tail and come full circle. Being a free diver, essentially, you are a mermaid, and you know, it's a really incredible way to inspire young kids as well. The idea of a mermaid. So this was in Bermuda. I put the tail on and off I went, and it's really incredible to have that journey happen and use mermaids as a way, you know, to be sort of ocean warriors and ocean protectors. And also with being the mermaid and not wanting to be a mermaid when I was young and being too scared because of the sharks, free diving allowed me to face that fear and face that fear head on. This is the very first image that I took of a shark. So it's a screenshot from my GoPro. And free diving with sharks is really, yeah, it was, you know, it was really unexpected in that I was more in awe with how beautiful sharks are and how they moved. The color, you can't see that this is a very old shot, but the color, the movements, how they come and look at you, their curiosity. And, you know, as I say, I always have my camera when I'm free diving, and I don't have one good shot here on the KZN coastline or the Mozambican coastline of a tiger shark or a bull shark, even though I've seen them, because I realized as soon as I'd swim towards them, they would get scared and swim away from me. So these black tips that you can dive with at Aliwal Shoal, they're the only ones that kind of don't swim away from you when you swim towards them. But yeah, to have my fear transformed was just yeah, really incredible. And you know, I never used to want to go out with spear fishermen or anything like that because of sharks. But that's, you know, that's transformed, just going into their world and into their realm, and just how lucky we are that we can do that. With free diving and also just being naturally so at home underwater and so calm and comfortable underwater. I decided to attempt to break some South African records. And whenever I did a record attempt, it was always to raise funds for ocean conservation to teach children so that I could give children the opportunity to free dive. So I've had 4 South African records. This is the last one I did in Bermuda, no fins, to 50 meters. And yeah, it was a beautiful dive. It felt easy. I'm really lucky in that I've never had to push my limits. So a lot of, you know, people think free diving is about pushing your limits. I haven't got there yet. Maybe I will one day. But for now, it's been an easy, beautiful, happy journey for me, diving deep. And I'd love to see how deep I can go. In Bermuda as well, I was a part of a program called Kids on the Reef. So that was teaching children on a 2-day program, free diving and snorkeling and why they need to protect the ocean. And we started running the world's first free diving camps for kids. Imagine that. Going on a free diving camp when you're a kid, like it's just amazing. And Bermuda's a perfect place for it, as you can see. And just giving kids the opportunity to dive deep into themselves. I mean, seeing children with ADHD, children who are being bullied at school, you know, there's children with, you know, confidence issues, and the transformation that happens. through freediving is really, really powerful. So yeah, I was really honored to be able to do that. And it was in Bermuda that I met Miles. And like I said, I've been able to watch people progress in their freediving. I taught Miles. He came to volunteer for the program Kids on the Reef, and I filmed his first free dive. Yeah, Miles and then Miles started filming. He became the cameraman, and now he picked up the camera and didn't put it down. So he's actually the main camera person now rather than me. But we started filming together, and the first thing we filmed together was for World Oceans Day. Where I was talking underwater about, what alternatives. Don't use plastic straws, take your own bag. Shopping, use a reusable bottle. And we've kind of, yeah, it's grown from there. It's kind of started realizing that people were loving it. And that's where Breath Beth was born. And we started putting out content, underwater content for people. And we found that it was truly profound in that I would get messages, hundreds of messages, thousands of messages from people saying they've either started learning to swim, or now they really love sharks and they're going to go for a shark dive, or they've taken a freediving course. And it was just really amazing to see the power of social media in a positive way. Like hugely positive way. Of course, there are some negative things and trolls and things like that you get, but mostly people are inspired and amazed and using content for good, and to allow people, a window into this world through filming our experiences was really amazing. And we've been to incredible places, seen amazing things. One of them is here on our coastline, the Sardine Run, where I spent 45 minutes by myself filming with 360 camera in a shoal of millions of sardines. They were so big, it took 45 minutes to pass beneath me, and I was finning hard to try keep up with them. And I would dive down, and as I would go down, it would go completely pitch black. There were so many of them. And for some reason, there were no sharks in that shoal, so they were extremely relaxed. So it was unbelievable. It was like I had entered another dimension completely. And it's not another dimension. It's our oceans, and we're so fortunate to have that. That footage was featured on CNN, and yeah, it really helped people to understand why this is so worth protecting, why, and what's happening with the sardines, how it all works, the predators that follow the sardines, the food chain, the fishermen, and the overfishing of the sardines. So that was really, incredible story to be a part of and to share. Another just really memorable experience was I was freediving with a manta ray, a little manta ray, and a friend of mine called Grant Birkinshaw was filming me with this manta ray, and he got amazing footage of it coming. Like, it looked quite small, and it hadn't been identified yet. So you can identify manta rays by their belly spot patterns. So I sent the footage in, and yeah, filed the manta ray, and then kind of forgot about the manta ray. And then 4 years later, I was freediving again in Setswana, and this manta ray came, and it might sound crazy to some people, but it just felt like the manta ray was completely connecting with me, and we swam together for a long time. And they look at you with their amazing eyes, and we swam together for a while, and then I sent the belly spot pattern in to Marine Megafauna Foundation. And it was the same manta ray from a few years before that had been smaller, but this time she can see that on her wing she's had a chunk taken out of her by a shark. So I got to name her, and her name is Bethany Hamilton, like the surfer, because although she's had a bit of a chunk of a wing taken out, she's still out there flying. But it's just how remarkable that I got to have this experience with the manta ray. And with the continuing of the ocean love, Miles and I did the world's longest underwater kiss, a Guinness World Record time of 4 minutes and 6 seconds. And yeah, it's just another way to really allow people to see the magic of the underwater world. And to have that record is, yeah, it's really incredible because it's about love and celebration. And that's what we need to do with the underwater world. With being with Miles, we became a freediving family. Miles and I shot also the world's first freediving series, showing people the magic of South African reefs, Mozambican reefs, and the reefs in Maldives. I found out I was pregnant day one of filming. This is me freediving with a pregnant tiger shark while I'm pregnant. So that was amazing. And this is me freediving with a pregnant ragged tooth shark while I'm pregnant. I just wanted to show, they also pregnant moms, swollen fins. We were, sharing our woes about I had swollen ankles. She had swollen fins. But it's just so special because these ragged tooth sharks go to Isimangaliso Wetland Park, Sodwana Bay area, to gestate, and it's a marine protected area, and these moms are able to go and gestate and be protected, so that they can have their pups. And more, the ragged-toothed shark population can, hopefully heal. All sharks aren't doing very well in their populations. I'm not a shark scientist. I don't know if there's any on this chat right now. I can't see who's here, but yeah, our sharks, need protecting and need rethinking, and that's what I try and do. Like the snow shark, I was also pregnant. I don't think the snow shark is pregnant, but I just had to show this picture because they're unbelievable. They're like dogs. They're like puppies. I mean, obviously you've got to be careful, but they're really curious. Amazing, amazing sharks. I was pregnant freediving with mantas. I saw my first dugong pregnant. So obviously my little Neve, who's now 4 and who chose my dress for this evening, and did my hair for this evening. She just turned 4. That's her underwater. And yeah, Little Mermaid, complete Little Mermaid. And we've had another little girl now, Nira, and she's 8 months old. And they both love being underwater. We're actually born to be underwater. So Nira, like all babies, we have the mammalian dive reflex, and babies, up until a certain age, it depends on the baby and which scientist you speak to, but have something called natural reflex laryngospasm, where as they go underwater, their throat locks, so they can't swallow water. So it's a natural thing for them to be underwater. And of course, I had her in water. But Neve, the 4-year-old, she can hold her breath, I think, for longer than most adults. And it's just really amazing for me now as a mum. I had been working with children, and now I'll be able to have my own children and to want to fight even more to protect our oceans for future generations. I'm doing it to protect the oceans for my own daughters as well, my own little mermaids. With the stories that I tell, it's not just about me and my family. I tell other stories as well. And what I'm currently doing now is I'm working on a project called The Zulu Diver with an amazing man called Chester Gumede, who was the first Zulu freediving instructor in KZN. This was his first freediving course, so I took him freediving for the first time. He had already taught himself to swim at the age of, well, he taught himself to swim when he was 24. And by 28, he was a scuba diving instructor and just loves being underwater. I'm telling his story, and through telling his stories, telling a lot of other stories too. We did an amazing shoot where this is him at 18 meters deep in full Zulu regalia, and he did a Zulu dance. So you're gonna have to wait to watch the documentary to see that.
I'm a Zulu diver.
Can see why you want to film it. So yeah, just going one breath with Chester underwater in the incredible Sodwana Bay. I think Sodwana Bay is my favorite place to freedive in the whole world. You never know what you're going to see, and you can see such incredible things. Currently now as well, it's MPA Day tomorrow. So I'm not sure how many of you know that it's Marine Protected Areas Day was a South African born initiative, but it's now completely global, and there's so much going on. And I'm so honored to be able to speak on the eve of Marine Protected Areas Day. There's lots of events happening, even right here on our coast. Russell Simcox is walking in the crazy wind. The length of the marine protected areas here, but there's movie screenings, there's this talk, there's lots happening. And why we need to celebrate marine protected areas is because they work. They really do, and they work really, really quickly. And marine life, that's what's just so amazing, is that it can recover quickly, and it can bounce back quickly if it's given the protection that it needs. With this, it's been a tricky thing for me. I've become a carte blanche producer as well. So those in South Africa will know carte blanche is one of sort of the longest running investigative journalist shows. And I had to tell the story of the sardine run. And for me, I kind of throw, after you saw that shot of me that I did with, the sardines, where I spent 45 minutes with a huge shoal, it's very difficult for me to see them like this. I throw back as many as I can, but also just understanding the relationship between humans and fish. And I've become very good friends with a lot of the netters. They're incredible people. So the netting here that they do on the coast, isn't what's causing the overfishing. It's the huge trawlers in the Eastern and Western Cape that are, taking too much. But still, to film this and to tell this story is amazing. You can see everybody scrambling to try and get some of the sardines, and how many people they feed, and how the netters give so many to the community for free, for sustenance. It's amazing, and it's also all within these marine protected areas here on the coast of the south coast of Durban. With carte blanche as well, what happened is there's a story I pitched that I really wanted to tell, which I'm able to tell now, and it came in the wake of a tagged protected great white sharks. South Africa, which I learned from Jennifer Olbers, were the first country to protect great white sharks in 1991. And yet, with the shark nets that I referred to at the beginning of the talk that I believed in when I was young, recently a tagged juvenile great white shark, was killed on the drum lines. So the nets and the drum lines don't work by forming barriers, and the nets work by killing, overfishing. That's the whole point. They kill the fish, they kill the sharks. There's obviously a lot of bycatch too. And so a lot of the nets were removed for drum lines, but the sharks are still being killed on the drum lines. And Josh Hunt took this image, and this shark was in a marine protected area, and it doesn't make any sense. It's a difficult thing to understand and to wrap your head around, and it's a very complex issue. But that's a story I'm looking into now. And it's been very interesting because a group called the Marine Liberation Society, they cloned the Sharks Board website. They put out a fake press release claiming to be the Sharks Board, saying that the Sharks Board were going to remove all the nets and replace them with non-lethal barriers. And for, a few hours a day, a lot of people celebrated, thinking, yeah, we're going to finally get rid of the nets. And it turned out that it was not true. It was fake news. And the Marine Liberation Societies, you can read their campaign release, their press release. But they said that they just wanted to release a statement of how things should be. Why now are we still using these archaic systems of shark nets and drum lines killing marine life? And yeah, not just the films I make, but there are so many other films out there that filmmakers are making that, I encourage you to watch, that tell incredible stories. Yeah, and filmmakers, I believe that there's lots of filmmakers out there doing incredible work and helping people to understand more about our environment and our oceans. And yeah, thank you for for joining me and for my sharing in my story. And yeah, I hope to carry on inspiring and protecting and doing more. So yes, oceans of thanks. Oh,
Beth, thank you so much.
one more thing I
Oh,
wanted to share is the last thing, coming full circle. So I came full circle with the mermaid. I came full circle with the sharks and the shark nets. I came full circle with the Big Blue too, meeting Jean Reno and getting my Big Blue DVD signed.
I'm certainly very, very jealous of that. That's one of my favorite movies as well. Beth, you've really showed us how that, science is maybe at the center of conservation, but I think we should also say that storytelling and art is maybe the heart of conservation, and that we also need the brain and the heart to make conservation work. So tonight we turned to the heart. So thank you for that. We also know that it's Marine Protected Area Day tomorrow, I think. Yes, tomorrow's the 1st. So we might just invite Judy Mann to say a word or two about that. I don't know if she's available. She's in the audience. But I'm going to hand over to my colleague Kirsten Neke to kindly handle the Q&A for me, because my connectivity is really not that good tonight. The wind here in the Western Cape is really blowing everything away. And on top of that, I have a barn owl who's going to sit on my antenna all the time, and I have to chase it away to get my connectivity back. So interesting issues. Kirsten, I'm going to hand over to you to please handle the Q&A from here.
Yeah, and if I can just say, wow, if Judy Mann is here, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks to her that this is, the Marine Protected Areas Day is happening. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yep, Judy has been laboring very, very hard and campaigning for this. So yeah, indeed. Kirsten, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. Beth, thank you so much. It's been fantastic I've been totally what's the right word? I had it written down, entranced. Listening to your stories within stories and your circles in circles. And it's been a pleasure to hear your stories. Very valuable work that you're doing. And I can't even imagine the fulfillment that you get in introducing young children to the ocean, and to seeing their faces and seeing how they can change from having fear to a love for the ocean. So I really envy you that. I'm going to turn to some questions. There are quite a few comments in the chat saying what a fantastic story and a lovely presentation. So that's great. And I see that there is a question from Letitia, or some questions. She looks very enthusiastic. Letitia, do you want to? Yes, there we go.
Hi.
Hey, Elle.
I want to say hi to everyone there, and especially my friend Beth. Looking great, and I'm so happy to hear you. And I wanted to congratulate you with carte blanche. Well done. And
Thanks so much.
your presentation has been great. And yeah, no, I know I'm the journalist on the crowd, yeah, and then I just have a few questions. First of all, like I said, I heard you start when you started talking about what you know, the dream that you have to be a mermaid, but to me you are, and that you went to see dolphins on a park, and then, you know, as a child you think that's the way we're supposed to see these dolphins, and then quite quickly you realize there was something wrong with that picture. And I'm glad to hear you saying that, because one of my questions is, you know, it's been in the news recently. It happens all over the world, Spain, Canada. There's this parks where they're still keeping dolphins and orcas in absolutely ridiculous conditions. And for me, my question is, yeah, I mean, what do you think? Is anything that the public can do, that as a citizens, that we can, and you that you've been there on the water, that, you know, can help to see we can do something to help the situation? Because yeah.
Yeah, I think you know, it's so tricky, but when you see cetaceans, dolphins, and orcas and things in that situation, it's just it's heartbreaking, because we know, you know, that they are as intelligent as we are. They have very intricate family dynamics. They're very similar to us, essentially. And I think for me, just helping people to understand that, because it is literally like somebody coming, you know, if you take them out the wild, taking one of us and imprisoning us. And for me, you know, I do that through filming. I haven't told that story. I don't know if you remember a documentary called Blackfish.
Yes.
But when that came out, I had actually come up with a campaign that I wanted to do when I was working for a wildlife filmmaking company, and unfortunately they said it was too controversial, because at that time also conservation was like the C word, like don't mention conservation. I think things have changed drastically now, and I think people are ready for it and open to it. And I think that these are the stories that we can share. And actually, thanks to social media, it makes it more accessible, and people are able to understand it. It's very difficult though as well, because of course there is an argument that, you know, that's how some people learn to love these animals, is by seeing them. And what do you do? Because most people don't have the opportunity like I did to go to Mozambique and swim with the dolphins. So it's a very also complex issue, but I think what people can do is, yeah, share those stories, and tell those stories as well.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's the part of conservation which is quite difficult, because on one hand, like you said, they want to see those animals because they don't have, I mean, they might not be swimmers or they're too young. But on the other hand, I know you work with children, which is one of the key on conservation. Our new generations needs to understand that no longer is susceptible, well, it's never been, but to sell that dream that you can only see dolphins on a small tank. And yeah, so maybe we have to find a balance where and sell or tell the truth of the situation. So I'm very happy for that. And I have one more question, if I'm allowed, Kristen.
Yeah.
Please go for it, Letitia. I love your questions.
And then, like I said, when you think of it, you know, is it about, you were talking about the biggest challenges right now with the marine protected areas. What do you think is what is the biggest problems that we are facing right now, and how could we, as a public, can do about it or help? What is your
I think
challenge?
I'm sure Judy will have those answers, but for me, I think regulation and control. How do you police those areas? That's a big problem. Policing and regulating and controlling the oceans is extremely difficult. But now with drones and that sort of thing, I think hopefully it is getting a lot easier. I think also people are starting to understand now in terms of, where you can fish and where you can't fish, and fish limits and fish sizes. But it's the enforcement. I think that's the issue. Obviously for me now, just because it's at the front of my mind because of doing the carte blanche insert, is just also, the kind of rules and regulations of MPAs, and just defining those more, and also allowing people to stick to them. But I think days like MPA Day are going to go a long way, because people are going to go, oh, well, what is that? And what does that mean? And they'll start to understand that we do have these areas that are protected. We need a lot more areas that are protected. But at least there's a start that's happened and a shift that's happening.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Elle.
Thanks, Letitia. Beth, I see there's a comment in the chat from Paul Andre de Georgis, and he talks about coral reefs going from incredible beauty to suffering and dying. I'm not sure, I might have missed you speaking about that. Is that something that you obviously have observed during your time as a diver?
Yes, so my first dive down, when I went to the Seychelles the first time, I came up and burst into tears because it was just a wasteland. Same thing when I went in Mauritius. I went on one of those boat cruises, and they took us to this reef, and it was just absolutely horrifying. But then at the same time, it's amazing. Somewhere like Bermuda, I see you actually watch the corals being bleached. It's on my Instagram. You see, actually watch them being bleached in the summer, and then in the winter they come back. So that's part of what I was saying, is when the water cools down again, is how resilient the ocean is, and how, if it's given the space to heal and what it needs to heal, that it can heal very quickly. So there's been these mass bleaching events. But I don't believe that hope is lost. Obviously, in terms of, like people damaging corals and breaking corals and things like that, that's a lot more difficult. But I think, again, through understanding what's happening, and with protection and that growing, there is hope. So yeah, it is heartbreaking and devastating. But then you see these places that have been protected and are still thriving. Another place off Alphonse Island in the Seychelles, I came up from my first freedive crying from joy, because I saw like 10 turtles and huge shoals of fish and the most vibrant, beautiful corals that I've ever seen. So yeah, it's it's an emotional thing. It's a heartbreaking thing, but there's hope.
That's lovely. I know that you've probably seen David Attenborough's last movie, Ocean.
Yes, yeah.
So he also brings up hope, and yeah, we were there. We watched it with a lot of young schoolgoers. The whole cinema was full of schoolgoers, and it was really quite a difficult movie, I think, to watch. But then the hope came through very strongly at the end. Yeah,
Yeah, and we
I've
have
got
to
a
keep that hope.
yeah, I've got a question, which is an unusual question. Can dolphins survive in fresh water?
And are there freshwater dolphins? Aren't there those pink dolphins that live in the Amazon?
That's right. In the yeah, in the
So I
Amazon.
think those pink guys are the ones that can. But no, I think like bottlenose dolphins and ocean species dolphins wouldn't fare well in fresh water.
And Beth, well, actually, on the dolphin subject, I wanted to ask you, do you often see you call it bioluminescence, as far as I know?
Oh,
Because the one
um,
time I was on a ship and I was sailing actually to Cape Town, and we had these dolphins surfing off the waves in front of the ship, and there was bioluminescence, and every single detail of the dolphins, you could just see it as they were swimming. And I was just wondering, how common is that?
yeah, no, that's very lucky to see that. Wow, very special. I've seen it on the beach in the Maldives, just in the shallows. And then I saw it in Cape Town, but that was a red tide, so that was in a negative way. But yeah, to have seen the dolphins like that, that's a very lucky thing. Lucky you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Come with you next time.
Great. My colleague Johan asks, are there programs supporting young divers who don't have financial capacity?
Yes, so in Sudwana, like Chester Gumede that I mentioned, the Zulu diver, Coral Divers supported him through, and a lot of the diving places in Sudwana offer the local Zulu guys like free training and support them through the courses and things like that. Then there's, lots of initiatives in terms of helping people to learn to swim and learning to snorkel and things like that. I said I used to work with I Am Water, and they're still doing that, and there's amazing organizations doing that work.
Thanks, Beth. On a different topic, I'm getting all kinds of questions in all different directions. So yeah, I think reflecting on your stories. So who, I'm not sure where they're referring to, but who enforces that poaching doesn't happen? And this is Peter Jones. Peter, I'm not sure whether you would like to come on and ask your question or discuss that with Beth.
I see you come from my hometown down the area down Clenstall way.
Yes, yeah, I'm in Scotborough, Freedom Park.
I've been most of my life spent down in Scotborough, so I know the reeds pretty well there. Obviously, what I've noticed when I left sort of Scotborough area about 4 or 5 years ago, the Parks Board sort of controlling the conservation was almost disbanded because of financial not having funds. And also now I've relocated down here to Komiki, and I've kind of noticed that guys are also talking about poaching and poaching coming in at night. And I kind of live quite a nocturnal life, so I'm like kind of up early hours of the morning and in our area going up into the mountains and often seeing lights out at sea and quite close to reefs and that. And I suspect that it's not vessels parking off and just waiting for the sun to come up to go into the harbors. How do we sort of prevent this? Because it's great talking about it, but obviously I realize here in South Africa, we've got the uniqueness of we have fantastic laws that aren't sort of enforced. We haven't got consequence driving it. So my question is really, what is the mechanism to ensure we start trying to get things on track? Or if there is one, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, what you say is so true. It's that enforcing and regulation that I was saying. It's so difficult. I mean, I've seen it myself. I used to pretend to be a ranger, and I'd go up to people and say, I work for the Parks Board. That fish is undersized, but I don't I don't do that anymore. I used to take to policing it myself. But there is, like here in KZN Wildlife Ezemvelo. There are numbers you can call, but yeah, I think a lot of places struggle with numbers of people available and working to be able to come out and check people. And also then there's a time delay. If you see somebody poaching illegally, by the time somebody gets there, it might be too late. But the stories that I've heard now is that I think here on this coast you'd be pleasantly surprised that things are shifting, and it seems like the enforcement's getting more strict, and now people are actually being penalized. I saw quite a few things in the media and on social media now during the sardine run with undersized fish being caught and people being arrested and things like that. Whether they're arrested and let go, or that there actually are consequences, I'm not sure. It's a difficult one.
Also the gill nets around sort of the rivers around Toti, Umkomaas River, the gill net guys are getting caught. I see there's quite a lot on social media where some of the local guys are catching them with drones and that, and stripping the nets and making it tougher for these guys to operate. Sorry, if I can ask one other question. I've been a wave ski guy for many years, and I got caught in in winter, quite a big set, and it almost led to hyperventilating at one stage where I was on a wave ski. The wave ski rolled back almost to the cutting sark, and I was caught in this set, which was the first one I got nailed on. And then kind of pushing up, I realized I was actually going down into the ground. I was totally disorientated. Came up, and then the next minute there was another mother just in front of me, like 30 meters, braking, and hyperventilation started. I went down, and before I went down, I was out of air. And then I came up, and it kind of happened for another wave or two, and then all calm happened, and I managed to swim out. And there was another local guy who was a kneeboarder, and literally I was like a beached whale, just lying on his board, just trying to just get my wits about me, get the breathing going right. And obviously the next trick was going to have to be in this big surf. I had to get back in again. But how do you overcome that hyperventilation? Because it's reached a stage now where I only go, well, I don't do much wave skiing now, but I only go and surf that I'm comfortable in. Is there a way of obviously overcoming that? Obviously with free diving and getting the breathing conditions right.
Yes, so for sure, Peter, there's even like a surf free diving course, so apnea for surfers, that teaches you how to relax, relax as much as possible in that situation, and how to breathe. And one of the key things is, for example, you don't exhale. And just like being able to do something we call a hook breath, which is kind of getting as much oxygen as you can in your breath in as quickly as possible in a very short space of time. That helps a long way. So there's things you can learn that really help. And as you say, I mean, it's absolutely terrifying, though. It's obviously also very different doing it in a course situation to experience it in real life. But the surf courses are quite fun because we try and simulate the waves, and everyone rolls you around, and then you're allowed to come up for one breath, and you've got to, do it in that situation. But there are tips that you can learn, and tricks that you can learn that really, make a big difference to your breath hold in those sorts of situations. But I would say now, like if you can't do a course and you find yourself in that situation again, just remember not to let any air out underwater. Don't let any air out underwater. And when you come up, do a little tiny breath out, and then a nice big, like as quick as you can, a breath in. So you go, and then hold. And even though you're being thrown around, just try and tell yourself to relax as much as possible, because there's not much you can do. If you're fighting it, as you know, you said you're trying to push up and you're actually pushing down. There's not much you can do until the wave lets you go and you get that opportunity to come up and take a breath. I wish I could carry on for another hour and do a free diving course with everybody.
Sorry, I'll go off. I'll let others talk now. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
both. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, those are life skills that we should have been taught from when we were little, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should carry on teaching us. Beth, I've got sort of questions in the shark direction and back in the dolphin direction. So I'm going to first go to the sharks, and then I'll go back to the dolphins. So Dana Lee May, she says, do you think that great white shark cage diving contributes to conservation, and does it impact shark behavior?
So yeah, I went great white shark cage diving many years ago when there were still great whites around. Now there's not so many around False Bay and all those areas. Yes, I think it does change their behavior. And it's a very difficult one. It's a very good question, because I'm still torn about it. I think shark diving or caged, even shark diving here without cages. Some people go in the cage, or great white cage diving. I think it does contribute to ecotourism and to conservation, in that because the sharks become valuable, because they're bringing in finances and money and helping businesses to exist, because there's a value placed on them. They are able to be protected more. If there was no value on them, there would be no protection. Whether it's right or wrong, that's also, I could have, and I'd love to talk more about that. That's also, an interesting one. But I know for myself that, I went on a shark dive here with the shark swim here with the black tips, and that's what, helped to change my perception of them. So it's a very complex issue. very difficult issue. But as I say, it's like rhinos, they have values and they're protected. It's the same with the sharks. Because they have a value, they can be protected more. Sharks, definitely all sharks need to be protected a lot more. But yeah.
Thanks, Beth.
Again, it would be another conversation.
Super, thank you. I have a couple of questions from Rotarian Nagioti Ola Pragada from India. These two questions are from this Rotarian, Nagioti, in India, and he would like to ask you, what are the main threats to dolphins, and how can we or Rotarians help protect dolphins?
So yeah, it depends on the dolphin species and where. So here in South Africa, along the KwaZulu-Natal coastline, the shark nets are a big threat to dolphins, and I know a lot of then there's for the bottlenose dolphins, they are doing quite well, their populations. But the humpback dolphins are not doing so well. In terms of threats, yeah, like I say, the shark nets, and then also just general fishing threatens the dolphins, also in terms of their available food sources. So I can only really speak to my dolphin friends on these coastlines. And yeah, I think in terms of protecting them, it's again just let's get more marine protected areas, so that their space, to exist can grow, and so their food sources can bounce back, so that they've got enough food to eat.
I have another question from Peter Jones, and I think we're going a little bit more into the scientific side of things. Let's see how you feel about this question. So why are there so few great white sharks nowadays?
Yeah, that is a good question, Peter. That's a controversial question, it turns out, from doing this carte blanche insert. Depends who you talk to, depends which scientist you talk to. But there are so few, definitely because of like what I told you about the juvenile tag great white being killed on the drumline, and because of the shark nets, a lot of great whites. People don't think of great whites here in KwaZulu-Natal on this coastline, but they're here, and they get caught and they get killed. So yeah, there's different theories. I'm not a shark scientist, so I can't speak, with complete authority on that. I would definitely encourage you to, look at the shark scientists, the great white shark scientists. There are lots of them in South Africa, and look at their work. But just as I said, it's sort of what I'm experiencing now, what I'm researching now is the impact of the drum lines and the shark nets. I mean, they are fishing devices. That's what they're there for, to kill the sharks. So yeah, it's a challenging one. It's a difficult one.
Actually, I'm really loving the questions from Peter. Peter, you should be having this discussion, but I'll ask your question. There's another question from Peter, which is, how close are we to lifting nets? Will that ever happen? That's a good question.
Yeah, so there are solutions out there, and the Sharks Board actually themselves have been working on a shark repellent cable. Apparently, there was an article released recently. I'm not sure what I should do. Maybe when the YouTube comes out, I should put some links and things for everybody to read more, what the scientists are actually saying. But I'm not sure. I have no idea when that's going to be released, if it will be released. It's obviously also very difficult here on the KwaZulu-Natal coastline with our surf conditions. It's not like in Cape Town you can have shark spotters, and they can stand up and watch, when the great whites come. Here you can't do that with this coastline. And, but there's drones, there's lots of other options. And then Sarah Andreotti, has an amazing shark scientist, has developed a shark safe barrier, which is electromagnetic, and it's succeeding very well in the Bahamas. And it's kind of ready to go, and it would survive this coastline. So there are options out there and solutions out there. How far off we are, I'm not sure. Hopefully things, the fact that people are talking about it more, and maybe with the carte blanche, there'll be more pressure to get the discussion going and find solutions more quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I think that I've covered the questions. Is there anybody else that wants to come in with a question? If you do want to just raise your hand. And Beth, yeah, in the meantime, I was just wondering, could you, in advance of Marine Protected Area Day tomorrow, would you like to say a couple of words about that?
Yeah, so I think the fact that so many of you are here with me tonight is really incredible. So thank you, and for listening about it. I don't know if Judy Mann is here on the chat.
She is around, but I'm not sure if she's, yeah, I don't know. Maurette, have you had any contact with Judy? Judy, welcome.
Yay!
Hi. Good to see you.
Great to see you, everybody, and thanks, Beth, for such a lovely presentation and for really highlighting the value of getting children into nature. I think that is such an incredibly valuable thing, and it's that immersion experience that can change lives forever and build us the next generation of ocean advocates. And I think that's something that we're trying to achieve with Marine Protected Areas Day. We did our research and we found that most of the people that we interviewed didn't know what a marine protected area was. They couldn't name a single marine protected area in South Africa. And that was what the start of MPA Day was in 2021. And this year we've grown to over 100 events in 31 countries, which is just phenomenal. But it's a team effort. It really is a team effort. And it's about that human connection for ocean protection. And I think that's what you've expressed in this presentation so beautifully. It's that connection between people for the ocean, and that's what MPA Day is all about. We've got a virtual tour happening, and then we've got activities happening around the coast. So thanks all for your support, and again, thank you so much to LCA for your ongoing support of MPA Day.
Thanks, Judy. Super to have you on.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. Thanks for starting this whole initiative.
Beth, yeah, thank you so much for this evening. It's been a total pleasure. And Letitia, thank you so much for introducing us to Beth.
Yeah, thanks, Pearl. So Letitia and I have been on a boat together at Aliwal Shoal. Amazing photographer and doing incredible work in conservation as well, as your audience will know from her talk.
Absolutely. And thank you for, yeah, I'm very excited about the work that you're doing with Carte Blanche as well. So please keep connected to us about it.
Yes, I will. Thanks.
Super. So lovely comments, all saying wonderful talk, wonderful presentation. And yeah, we really appreciate it, Beth. Thank you for it, and have a beautiful evening.